take turns saying like what you like the most about it, and then maybe one thing that you think could be better or could be changed or would like to see as DLC in the future, or like some way to improve it. So yeah,
this is good. We get kind of two very different perspectives.
I was just thinking that,
because this is my first Animal Crossing game, and whereas Geek Apprentice is she's been with Animal Crossing since the beginning, so it's
yep.
Yeah, we might have different things to say.
Which I'm interested to hear what a newcomer thinks of it.
Oh, good. Well, why don't you take the reins and go ahead and start? I guess.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'm trying to think of things that aren't like obvious. Well, I guess as someone who's been going with this game since the GameCube era, the graphics are just alone amazing. And I think one of the best ways to summarize this game, especially when you think about the graphics, the breaking down some of the typical mechanics of Animal Crossing, taking some of it away, now doing crafting, the fact that I almost said weapons, the fact that your tools break, I'm like, this is the Breath of the Wild of the Animal Crossing franchise. Your weapons, yeah, I said it again, your tools break, you have to craft them. Well, I guess you don't have to craft in there, but the animation when you're crafting stuff reminds me of when you're making food in Breath of the Wild. And again, the graphics and just so much more than that you can do. I love the extra freedom in this game. Again, sounding like Breath of the Wild. Between getting to place items outside, getting to move your home if you don't like where it is. I haven't gotten there yet, but being able to tear down rivers, build them back up, same with cliffs and everything. Just a lot of, the whole point of Animal Crossing is it's just a relaxing life simulation. You get to do what you want. And it's weird going back to old games and being like, wow, we were really restricted until now. We didn't know it. But now going back, we're like, oh my gosh, that's insane. And the fact that you can level up too, in a sense. The fact that you actually do start off with nothing. You don't walk into a town and you're like, all right, we have the Able Sisters, we have the museum, we have all this stuff. It's like, no, you have to get your way there. And the fact that they managed to do it in a way that's not tedious, because I was hesitant about that. I'm like, I don't want to have to earn things, but they made it work, and you can literally earn Nook miles for anything, for picking weeds, which is something I would have done anyway. There's a lot to be said, so I'll stop it at that point.
No, that's fair. Yeah, so I guess I didn't know that you couldn't, or that tools didn't break in the previous games until
now. Well, they did, but nowhere near as easily.
Okay, so that makes sense. So it's yeah, I could see how this would be, how you could draw the comparisons if the previous games were quite restricted to draw those comparisons to Breath of the Wild. I've said in the past that I always really like games that really like challenge me or force me to like really hunker down and like push myself, and this is completely the opposite of that in every way. But I love it. It's almost like a breath of fresh air where I'm like, I can just do things at my own pace and whatever. I'm just having the time of my life. I've just been completely going to like flying to using the Nook Mile tickets to like go to other islands and just completely like raise everything there, just flatten it, take everything I can, fly back home, and just I've planted almost an entire forest on my island, and I've got and I've had a hell of a time just playing online with people, including online with viewers during streams and with friends outside of streams, just like visiting each other. It's sitting and like voice chatting and stuff like that. I don't know. It's so a really fun, different experience than pretty much any other game ever played, because it's just like it's just really chill. There's no other way. I like the presentation. It's decidedly simple, but it's not like bare bones and ugly at the same time. It walks that line. I've always less is more, and that's okay. But there's some really beautiful scenery. Like there's a spot on my island. There's like a little secret beach at the very back of the island. They set up like a little chair, and it's just a nice spot. You go and watch the sunset there. It's just gorgeous. So it's
now how do the trees
so much
look?
That I could discuss. How do the trees look?
Oh,
better than the ones in Pokemon.
They do. I love Pokemon Sword and Shield.
That's a joke.
But oh my gosh. They actually do look good. Even my mom commented on that. She was like, "Look at the leaves; they move individually."
Yeah.
Well, they
like
have-
rustle in the wind, and yeah.
They had a game called New Leaf, so I guess they would have to have the leaves look good.
That's true.
No, so
And I never thought I'd have so much fun online playing hide and seek.
Right? Yeah.
I'm
No,
a
I did.
24-year-old playing hide and seek, and sardines too.
Oh, hey, that's a good idea, actually. But
It's
that's,
funny because you can't really squish in that game, so you have to find a really good spot that most people can get to.
That's fun. It's very laid back and decidedly so, and not just because it's like, oh, it's just an easy game that you can breeze through. Like, I would draw the comparison. Kirby Star Allies on the Switch is very also aesthetically simple but visually pleasing game. Very easy game to go through. Zero difficulty, in my opinion. And that's a fairly chill, laid-back game, but it's mostly chill in the fact that it's so easy, you have to put almost no effort into it. This game is the opposite in that it's chill because there's no like adversary, as it were, that you're like squaring off against, but you still you're still putting effort into it. Like I mean, aside from catching tarantulas, which is absolutely terrifying, but like it's just chill in the way that like you're not having to fight anyone for whatever reason or story driven. You're just trying to grow something out of nothing, and it's I don't know. I could really go on and on about it. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just absolutely just like all in on this game. I probably I wonder if it shows me yet. I keep checking to see how many hours it says I put into it.
I know. I've been waiting to see that too. It just says you started 8, or at this point, I guess like 10 days ago or whatever. And I'm like, I need to know.
Right? And I've played it's been 9 days now. It's last Friday, so then 2 days, so 9 days. So I have played for several hours every day since it came out, and the last game that sucked me in that hard was Breath of the Wild. The last game that I was like, I don't want to do anything but play this game was Breath of the Wild. So I mean, that's pretty big praise, I think.
Yeah. What's weird about it too, though, is, I promise this will be my last thing, but with Animal Crossing, and I think both Tubes and I have said this, is we try to do it justice when we describe it, but when people ask, what do you do? I'm like, don't let me answer that, because if I try to answer it, it will literally sound like the most dumb, boring game ever. It sounds completely pointless. It's one of those where I'm like, you just have to look at it and try it and see if it's your thing. And some people, it's really not. It just isn't. Or like, I can't even compare it to another game. Some people are like, oh, it's like Stardew Valley, and I'm like, it's nothing like Stardew Valley in my mind. But yeah, I'm like, I can't describe it because I feel like when I try to think about it, what I do in the game, I'm all of a sudden like, what am I doing? The whole concept is so boring. But then I open it and I'm like, no, I love it. Just kidding.
Yeah, and it's funny. My wife asked me, she says, what's the point of this game? And I'm like, I don't know. There is no point, but I think that is the point. But then she tried it. And now she's hooked on it as well. That's weird criticism, though, is, and this is more just Nintendo and their Switch online systems more than the game itself. But we have 2 Switches in the household. You can only have 1 island per console. That's the rule. There's 3 of us that live here and want to play this game. 2 consoles. So basically because I stream and everything like that, we decided that my island would be my own. Spencer and Kaylee, my wife, would their island. And on the other Switch. But in order to be able to play them both, you have to buy digitally, which kills me a little bit because I greatly prefer physical media over digital.
Same.
And you can't do local play at the same time. You can online play on the same console, but you can't do local play and visit each other at the same time, because it'll be like, this Nintendo will kick you off basically and say, no, it's already being played on this other console. Yeah, which is weird, but I mean, there's just the way, and then you have to have one Switch as your primary console, and then one Switch that's not your primary console, and anyone that uses the primary console can play the game, but only the person who bought it can use it on the secondary console. And it's just like this really weird entanglement of weirdness that Nintendo set up for using multiple Switches. And I don't really want to pay for the game twice either. And I also don't want to buy a third Nintendo Switch console because 2 is already pure excess on my part. So, like, it's just... Why, Nintendo? Why did you make this so complicated? Why, like, you already have a setting, like a system that's set up with multiple profiles for different people, so that you don't have to worry about like save files like traditional console games. And yet you're making it weird by having only one island per console instead of it being per your own profiles. What? It makes no sense.
And I guess most people, and this is what I thought too, was like, well, in past games, you always had to share the town too. However, the fact that you can really customize your island, I'm just imagining all of the sibling feuds. I don't want to put a bridge there. No, but I do want to put a bridge there. I want to kill that cliff. I want to get rid of it. No, I want to put cliffs up here. It's going to be chaos to make them stay on the same island.
Like drawing a line in the sand, I think. And, like...
Which maybe they're trying to teach the lesson, but this is not the time to do that.
No. But it's just like, it's bonkers that they have that such a weird system. And also, the argument that this is how it was before has always been super weak. They're willing to change so much of this stuff that I didn't know that was actually changed until you told me about it. But they're willing to change all these other... Why carry over something as dumb as that? I don't know if dumb is the right word, but for lack of better words, it's dumb. So.
Yeah, and not being able to move your island now because everyone has the same island and everything. So if my Switch broke, heaven forbid, I can't even move. Can't even move it, which is,
bonkers.
Weird. I mean, they said they're working up a backup save system that's not the cloud or whatever. I'm like, people are already getting around the time mechanic, so it doesn't matter. They fixed that one glitch, which I wasn't even going to bother trying because it involves other people on your island and it was too complicated. But I'm like, but why?
I don't know what the glitch is, but...
It was something about, like, if... My brother told me about it. He doesn't even play it. It was something like if you have someone over on your island and you go into your house, and so people were doing this with the Animal Crossing Switch item, which you only get if you have the special edition Switch. If it's a best friend, it has to be best friend so they can move things. If you take that Switch off right as they turn the table it's on, it like stays there. So now you have 2, and you can keep doing that and get multiple because you can sell it for a lot of bells. Something like that.
That reminds me of the old Pokemon glitch. In the original Pokemon games, when you traded your Pokemon to your PC from your character or your backpack, while it was in the middle of transferring or saving, if you turned your system off and then turned it back on, there would be the copy of your Pokemon in the PC and a copy of the Pokemon still with you. So it's like the same thing. Because it copies the file and then it deletes the old file, which is the old Pokemon that you have. So if you do it like while it's in the middle of it at the right time, then you turn it off after it copies but before it deletes. So
I think there's even I think people find like item multiplier glitches in as many games as they can, because I've seen videos of people cloning items in Breath of the Wild as well. Like, I think even Rick has a video on his channel, RMFH, for those who's like, who's Rick? Of how to like pull off like cloning hundreds of Guardian parts and stuff like that. So, and it's like pretty easy to do apparently. So it's, I don't know. It seems like a word, but yeah, I mean they patched that one out, I guess. So I won't be exploiting it. But actually, no, I don't have the Animal Crossing Switch. I just pretended by putting blue and green Joy-Cons on my Switch.
There you go.
And crying to myself.
There you go.
So you guys talked about what you liked about Animal Crossing and some stuff that you didn't like. But what, for each of you, is the one thing that while you were playing it. Not something you read online or whatever, but something that you came across or did yourself that made you go like, oh my gosh, wow, this is awesome. Or like just, even if you didn't say that, it just like put a big smile on your face. Aside from just playing the game for the first time.
Yeah.
I think the first time I went into the museum, and I was like, holy cow, Blathers built this in 2 days.
He runs that whole place by himself for free.
He does. Wow. But no, the museum is I mean, you've got the Critterpedia, which is basically like your own compendium, right?
Yeah.
But the museum is like just really atmospheric and really just really neat to just explore and see, like, not just a collection of images of all the things that you've collected and submitted, but them actually like out on display. It's really cool, and the music's got this really chill, like, calm vibe. And when the first time I went into the museum, it actually was when I was visiting a friend's island, so not my own museum actually, and he like took me on the whole tour, and I was just like wide-eyed the whole time. I'm like, I don't even have this much fun in a real museum, so
Oh my god.
no, it's it was really cool. It was
Hey, we went to a museum together.
yeah, no, that was fun. But
Yeah,
like,
we shoved
but,
our
like, we
heads
didn't-
into the giant glass circle thing.
that was fun. The weird mirror
Yeah.
lights thing.
I was like,
But-
do not touch, and then we touched.
Did you touch it?
No,
Jesse.
like it said, like don't put the don't put cameras or anything inside of it or whatever. But like we both, like everyone was sticking their head inside of it and like their cameras and stuff and recording. So, but yeah, you don't touch the art at museums.
No, don't touch the art.
No, don't.
Yeah, lesson.
I literally had a
lesson
nightmare
learned.
before going to a museum for a field trip as a kid that I accidentally touched a painting and got
no.
arrested.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
they do
I was
that.
like 6.
Oh no.
No, okay,
Oh.
so the only thing I can
No,
say is there was a lot of people that were sharing images, I guess, from the developers of Animal Crossing that they've shared of like their islands that they've created. And people, it was weird. Like I never seen anyone complain about the images that the developers put out, but people
Okay.
were complaining about people complaining.
What?
What?
But I never seen
Exception.
anyone complaining about
What?
the pictures, because like everyone would get their islands and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I'll never be able to create something this amazing, or this will take a year to create, or I'll never be able to do this, like I just want to give up or whatever. And people were responding to stuff and like sharing the images and being like, your island is your island, don't give up because you don't think you can create something like this, just have fun
That's heartwarming.
with whatever
Yeah.
you do create. And I'm like, I see everyone saying like this stuff that's heartwarming and wholesome and everything, but I never seen anyone complain. So it's like, who are they responding to? Because it's not like they would retweet someone who was complaining. It was just images that they were sharing, being like, don't feel bad that you can't make something like this. And it's like, who's saying they can't make something like this? I don't-
It
Probably
is a little overwhelming at first. Like now that I've started to put stuff down and I have like flower gardens and stuff, I'm like, okay, it's going to take me a long time, but I will get there. And
Yeah.
as far as my wow moment, the museum might be one of them, but I think for me, because music's always going to be a thing, the hourly music didn't start when you first play the game. And I remember being like, why is it so like quiet? Like there's music, like acoustic guitar quietly in the background, but then once you get the town hall or whatever they called it,
Right.
then you start getting hourly music. And I started noticing it, but it was when I think it was the 6 o'clock hour, because the music's a little bit different in this game. My favorite has always been City Folk and New Leaf music, but mainly because I also don't remember Wild World and population growing that much. But I think it was the 6 p.m. hour. Like I remember stopping midstream and being like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
this sounds like Animal Crossing. This sounds like an Animal Crossing song. Like 6 p.m. is like one of my favorite hours now. I was just like that. This is
6
Animal Crossing. I
p.m.
just like
is a
sat
frightening
there and
time
listened to
in
it.
Majora's Mask.
6 p.m. is what?
A frightening time in Majora's Mask.
Well, thankfully it's not
depends
Majora's
which day.
Mask.
But-
That's true. That's true.
but
that was probably my like, oh my gosh, I definitely feel like I'm in Animal Crossing now. Like, even though I knew I was, like, I already felt it, but that was like a whoa. This is the Animal Crossing music I know, and I loved it.
Whoa.
Right. The music's
Whoa.
pretty good though. Like my town hall or resident service building just opened this morning actually. So
Woo.
I had only had up until today that same acoustic guitar song. And that was great timing because it was just when I was actually getting tired of that song, and I was like, okay, like it's very simple, so it's not really like annoying because it's pretty mellow. But then I was like, okay, like I'm kind of getting tired of the same music. Is this the only thing? And then today, look at that, it's different music, and I'm like, oh, and it changes every hour, and some of the songs have been pretty bumping music actually. I'm like, oh, I'm enjoying it. It's
Oh yeah.
it's good. There was a song it was like between 9 to 10 a.m. I think, and it was just like it had just like this really good vibe to it, and it's I think it rolls out at just the right time because opening the tunnel, it really feels like, wow, okay, I'm making serious progress here. Like this is now we got bricks on the ground. I built a bunch of gates and fountains and stuff like that, and just I don't know, it feels, and then the music rolls out to just match that almost perfectly. So it's not even almost, it just perfectly matches it. So it was a nice little surprise, I guess. So
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Something that actually I think Denny pointed out earlier that I noticed, it's like one of those complaints that you're like, really, you got all of this in this new game and you're complaining about that? But I agree, which is, why can't we access our storage when we're crafting in our own house? Like, if I don't have wood in my pocket, but I have like 30 sets of 30 in my storage and I'm in my house crafting, I have to exit crafting, go to my storage, put it in my pocket, then start crafting. And I'm like, it literally says on the screen, you have this in storage. I'm like, what?
Oh,
but like, of all things to be complaining about.
And it shows you how good the game is if those are the minor, like the complaints are so minor.
Right.
Like that, right. But
right.
yeah, it's.
I mean, I do have one big complaint, and that's the rooms in the house. They're not shaping up to be like they used to have them, but I have a video coming out about that later.
Okay. I will wait for the video to ask more questions then.
Well, I mean, you can now. I mean, it's already pretty much recorded. It's just in old games, like starting with Wild World, because in Wild World, everyone was in the same house. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea, but everyone was in the same house. I will say, though, it was the DS, so odds are people had their own DS, and therefore their own Animal Crossing, but still. But that meant you had the main room, a side room, another side room, a back room, a basement, a second floor, and your attic. City folk, they cut out the side rooms because they went back to having your own home. But then in New Leaf, you got all of that back, and you start off with a small room. Each room is small, medium, then large. So you get every room to be large. I think basement is already just large from the get-go. But what I've noticed when I've looked at videos of what the house looks like in New Horizons, it looks like, I haven't counted the squares, but it looks like our main room only gets to a medium. Our side and back rooms stay a small, and the attic and the basement are like horizontal mediums. And I'm like, why would you make everything smaller? And I thought, maybe this isn't the right video. Maybe she didn't actually pay it off. But then I found plenty of others that all said the same thing. Like, this is me paying off my home and saying you made your final payment and you're all done and everything is small. And I'm like, wait, just because we can put stuff outside doesn't mean I don't want my home to be big. So I'm wondering if maybe down the line they're going to bring back certain characters that I haven't seen yet. Or whatever, that maybe as like a paid DLC we'll be able to be like, oh, now you can make your home even bigger now. Because I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Just because we can put stuff outside, you added like hundreds upon hundreds of new items. So I need my house to be just as big.
Well, that's fair.
Did you see where the new Animal Crossing game sold more? And this was an article that came out a few days ago, but it sold more in that time frame than every other Animal Crossing had sold altogether.
I didn't know that, but I believe it.
So, like, within the first week or two, it outsold the entirety of the entire series from every other console.
Wow.
So
That's
I
really
believe it, though,
impressive.
because I think I've seen, at least online, like a lot, and myself included, are jumping into this game, and it's our first one, but something piqued our interest about it, and a lot of people are jumping in now as a starting point. So I
It's
believe it.
way better than the other games, as good as they were for those of us that have been around for a while. They had much more advertising for it than I think the others did. And a lot of people are coming over from Pocket Camp too, that tried it for free on their phone, which was okay. But if you want the full experience, then they were like, oh, well, what is it? You know, coming over to
Makes
that. So I don't know if that helped too.
Yeah, no, that makes sense actually. Pocket Camp was the Pokemon Go of Animal Crossing. So
True.
yeah, yeah. I never tried that Pocket Camp myself, but I heard it was just like okay.
It's,
But-
yeah, it had its moments. It was good to tie this over when there were events. You know, like if they they would have events for Halloween and Christmas and all these different things. When Splatoon 2's DLC came out, they had a big fishing tourney that advertised that, and there was cool stuff you could get. But it was one of those things that, first of all, no matter where I am, never does it load. Constantly, it's having to return me to the title screen. It's just, it can't handle. It's
Oh.
too big for a phone. It's too much for a phone. And I'm like, nice try. You really
Gus
tried.
points out in the chat there's this quarantine effect, and that's a good
That
point too. Is that a
too.
lot of people are stuck at home right now, and have a lot more free time on their hands. I mean, this came out right. My son was on spring break. Now school's canceled till who knows when as well. So he's certainly got a lot more free time, and he's sinking a lot of hours into the game himself. And myself, like my work has just had me start working from home, so I basically have an extra 2 hours a day that I would spend either on breaks or commuting or whatever like that I can play games at, which I have been. So it makes sense that probably in no small part to that, a lot of people are just finding themselves at home with the extra time, and they're like, I'll just try this game out, and then that's all they're doing forever.
It sucks you in.
It does. And that's another thing. Someone pointed out it's Denny in the chat. Never seen so many Switch friends online playing the same game until now. It's true.
I know.
I see it. I log on and there's like 12 people at once, and like that doesn't sound like many, but it's like never is it that many people all playing one game. Like,
at most, prior to Animal Crossing, I saw 3 people online. It would be like, this person's doing Fire Emblem, this person's playing Breath of the Wild, this person's playing Mario Kart, and I think the biggest I saw was around like 10, and it was all of them Animal Crossing. And I was like, oh my gosh. And a lot of them are people like you, who it was their first time, like Tevi, I think Luke, it was his first one, Hylie and Luke. And then, of course, a lot of people who were returning. I was just like, this is insane. It's nuts. But we also, again, have more time. One of my the saddest things about the time it released is that was going to be the end of my spring break for work. But I guess good for Animal Crossing. My spring break was extended, but bad for my job, because now one of my jobs is just completely gone until I don't even know when. Probably till the fall. But I was like, well, now I have more time for Animal Crossing.
it's true. It's kind of bad, but kind of good at the same time. Yeah.
I know a lot of people are saying I wish it was easier to go to other people's islands. I do too, but guarantee you, this is way better than it used to be. It's so much easier. Like, even just New Leaf, you had to somehow have direct contact with the person you're visiting. You have to be friends. You have to have your codes on your 3DS, and same with all other games. You have to open your gates at the same time, and then you have to like sync it up so stupidly, and it's so hard to get through. I never thought I'd use the Switch Online app, but I am, because of the QR codes, and because that's so much easier to text people with.
Oh yes.
Because
Finally,
using
the
that
Switch
instead
app
of the
works.
on-game thing, I'm like, there's actually a use for this app now.
It's so true. Yeah, I've said a few times, like, finally the Switch Online is good for something, even if it's just a glorified keyboard for the game. But the QR codes have been fun too. I put like my flag on my island is my little cat person profile picture is on my flag, so and one of our viewers, Just X, you guys probably all know, but I have a great image of him that he posts online of his face, and he looks shocked, and I scanned that in as a QR code and posted it on Twitter and just like download this QR code with his permission though. Don't worry, but and it's great. So it's funny. I put the QR code on Twitter. I didn't tell people what it was for, but it was for this photo of him making this face here. I'll just
Oh my gosh.
You can have that on a shirt in Animal Crossing. That's how great the Nintendo Switch app is. So.
I still have yet to do that with a picture. All I've done is like all of the old QR codes that I downloaded on New Leaf to be able to have like a Zelda dress. Like people who took hours upon hours to make different themed outfits. I was going online and downloading all of those so I could have Malin, all these different Zelda outfits, Disney character outfits. I have Saria, all these different things, and I'm like, yes.
That's amazing. I've seen some really cool designs on. Someone made like the champion's tunic, in Breath of the Wild, from Breath of the Wild and stuff like that. So it's cool. It's cool.
Someone asked if it's like Harvest Moon. From what I know of Harvest Moon, no, there's nothing about farming. That makes sense. I mean, some people who love Animal Crossing like me do compare it to Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley, but what I've seen of them, I do not see it at all. Because to me, those games look boring to me, but that's just my opinion.
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you should ask someone who's actually played Harvest Moon.
I have not. So. Oh dear. Okay, so Missy in the chat says I need peaches. So that reminds me of one really neat thing. There's this really neat sense of like I guess community with people where like my island had pears to start with, and my sons had apples. So we traded, of course. And then when I start playing online with people just start bringing me fruit. And they're like, here's some cherries, here's some, like Denny especially, just bringing me a bunch of fruit and stuff like that. And they're like, plant these. And now I've got every fruit on my island already. I'm a week into it.
Same.
And it's just because
there
everyone
used to be bananas though, and I don't know where they are.
The Yiga got
That's a
them.
good point. And that's it.
There's no bananas. There used to be bananas,
Yiga.
I swear.
Damn Yiga clan. It's funny because my island is called Banana Town, and that's the irony, is there's no bananas in Banana Town.
That is ironic. Although some people figured out what their fruit was and just named it after that. So people have like Pearville, Peach Island, things like that. I was so sad. I was like, just not cherries, just not cherries. That's like my least favorite fruit. I find the smell makes me nauseous. I can't stand it. What was my island fruit? Cherries.
Oh my
so I'm like slowly wiping out the cherry trees till there's only a few and planting the other ones. So I'm like, here's the new native fruit.
They're so
they
cute.
Are cute, but I think the peaches are cuter.
No, the peaches are cute. I just really love having the diversity where you've got like I've got basically a forest that's all fruit trees now, and it's just when they start like growing in and stuff, I end up shaking. I was trying to just like let them all grow in, but then I end up keep shaking the trees down and planting more. And it's getting to be quite dense. But
I have money trees now because of those gold spots.
Wait,
Zach in the chat says, I like how everyone in gaming is arguing the power of the next gen consoles, and Nintendo fans over here like playing Animal Crossing.
Yeah, that's true.
Nintendo's always been like that. They're like, you guys do your thing, we do things our way. And people love it. But yeah, you know how you can find a gold spot each day and you can dig it up and find bells? If you plant bells in there and the tree is successful, it'll grow 3 of that type. So I have one tree that has 3 1,000 bell bags on it whenever it regrows. And I have one that's not finished yet, but I think I planted 10,000 bells. So I'll get 30,000 bells from that tree every few days.
What?
But it has to be in the golden spot of the day.
So you just plant
bells
money there. You just
because you dig up 1,000 bells, but you can plant it right back in that spot before you cover it up.
That's an investment. So, all right, that is.
I think we've talked about Animal Crossing.
I don't think the game tells you that you can do that. I did not know this.
No, I knew you could do it in past games, but the thing is, they haven't had the golden spot since the GameCube. So I had completely forgotten about it. I don't think they did in Wild World, but they didn't have it in City Folk and New Leaf. So someone mentioned it to me on stream, and I'm like, they brought it back? Yay! That's because I think after the GameCube one, it used to be you could get money from one rock a day. but there was nothing else you could do with the rocks. Now the rocks do other things and money. So they brought back the golden spot, and I'm like, yes.
It's good. But yeah, we probably have talked it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Poor
All right.
Jesse
All right,
here
no,
hasn't
no,
played
no.
the game.
I
We love you,
had fun
Jesse.
listening. So are you guys ready for the Zelda thing?
Yes, let's talk
Yes.
about Zelda. This is a Zelda channel, guys. We're talking about